Welcome to Conversations with Common Sense Media, Common Sense Media's premier thought leadership series, bringing you in-depth conversations and insights on the latest research, trends, and technology that are impacting kids and families in the digital era. I'm Dr. Supreet Mann, Director of Research at Common Sense Media, and today I'll be talking with Dr. Jenny Radesky and Dr. Laura Zimmerman. Jenny is one of the premier media researchers and medical professionals focused on the impacts of kids and technology. She is a board-certified developmental behavioral pediatrician, and she has published hundreds of articles and presentations on the impact of social media on kids. She is also the co-medical director of the American Academy of Pediatrics Center of Excellence on Social Media and Youth Mental Health, and serves as an advisor on our newly launched Youth AI Safety Institute. She is also parents to two kids, a middle schooler and a high schooler. Today, we'll talk about her latest study published in May and our new report published in June. We're also joined by Dr. Laura Zimmerman, our Director of Youth AI Research. She leads research on how AI shapes child development, learning, well-being, and family tech use for Youth AI Safety Institute. Laura holds a doctorate in developmental psychology and has more than 15 years of experience conducting research on kids and technology. She has published and presented on how kids use and learn from digital media and, like myself, is also the mother to a toddler. She'll share the latest findings from our new report, our Common Sense Media Census, AI Use by Tweens and Teens, that was published in early June. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great. I'm going to start with you, Jenny. Through your research at the University of Michigan and with other higher education partners, you've recently published some new research about the risks and consequences of children's use of social AI. Can you give us a high-level view? What was the article about? What did you learn? And second, as a parent myself, what do I and other caregivers need to know, and what should we do with these insights?
Yeah, so this was a piece published in JAMA Pediatrics with two of my colleagues, Alexis Hineker and Marie Bragg. We were all part of a team working for the Federal Trade Commission, trying to advise the lawyers there on how to protect kids' rights online and how to keep them safer. We've all since left the FTC, but we enjoyed working together so much because this intersection of how kids develop and the unique ways they think and how tech is designed to make money and grab our attention, it can be a really bad mix. And we both really enjoyed thinking about how not only what parents could do better, but how the tech world could be designed better to make this safer and make parents' jobs a little easier. So when AI burst onto the scene, social AI, we call these anthropomorphized, kind of human-like, large language model types of products. So this is ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Character AI, Grok. These are things that have human-like characteristics. Now that is a game changer for kids because we are social animals. We are wired to attach to one another. And when we see someone treating us with kind of empathy or understanding or even just using pronouns like, I'm sorry to hear that, it activates these like deep brain responses in us to have some social reciprocity. What does that word mean, social reciprocity? It just means trust or some back and forth or some connection. And we were really worried that social AI products are really going to be potentially attaching to kids, potentially giving them bad advice, and potentially, leading to developmental outcomes that we as parents or as policymakers don't want to see. Okay, so what we did was we laid out these 5 areas that we were concerned about. DOSAD, D-O-S-A-D. The first D is data privacy. Kids share some really sensitive things with AI because they say, I don't want to talk about this cringy topic with my parent. I'm afraid they're going to judge me. So they might ask about mental health or sex or, something really private with AI. And then that data, we need to know that that data is not used to target them for marketing, because that is a really vulnerable state for that kid to then be targeted with an ad for something. The O is for overtrust. So kids are very out of the box thinkers. They might name their car. They might attach to a stuffed animal. Research has shown when they see a little robot, they think of it as kind of human-like. Like they think it's unfair to lock it in a closet because it might get lonely, right? And there's been research showing that little kids think Alexa has feelings. It could be their friend. This is called animism. It's that anthropomorphizing of a technology and kind of connecting to it emotionally. So we're worried when you connect with something, you trust it more, and that kids might overtrust, especially bad advice that they get from technology. And common sense evaluations have shown that chatbots have given kids advice like how to run away or how to make napalm or how to do other sorts of dangerous things. The S stands for sexual interactions. Like if you build an engagement-based AI product, meaning I want to get as much engagement from a kid as possible, if you're a teen, one way to do that is to act sexy with that teen, right? Because teens are very curious often about sex and sexuality, and it's a really vulnerable human place to be, having, taking those first steps to romantic involvement with someone. So we were worried that kids might be experiencing sexual interactions with chatbots in a ways that create new norms, the way pornography creates norms with kids. That might not have the same boundaries or consent or kind of appropriateness that you kind of fumble along with in your first romantic or sexual interactions. The second A is attachment. Again, I talked about the fact that we can attach without really thinking about it to technologies. And the last D is dependency. So dependency just means I've gotten so used to using this frictionless, easy product at my fingertips that I'm no longer doing that thing for myself. And as a developmental pediatrician, I have worked with so many kids who love the shortcut of like, school feels hard. I just want the shortcut to finish my homework. And I'm really worried that many kids will just choose the easy AI answer rather than doing that mental work themselves. So that's what we published. It was really focused on these like immediate harms of what should we be worried about when kids' unique developmental characteristics are interacting with these new technologies. But it doesn't really capture all the longer term developmental harms that as a parent we might be more worried about.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I know we'll talk more about what parents can do with their kids and how they can start talking to their kids about some of these difficult conversations. Jenny, you also were an advisor on one of our latest research reports looking at AI use amongst tweens and teens. And Laura, you were the lead researcher on that report. What were some of the key findings from that report? And were there any areas of overlap with some of the work that Jenny's been talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we surveyed over 12,000 tweens and teens, age 9 to 17. And there was a lot of areas of overlap between the work that Jenny was just talking about and some of the things that we found. But what we found at a high level is that AI use is almost nearly universal. AI is being adopted by tweens and teens to such a degree that almost 9 in 10 tweens and teens are now using AI, or 86% of tweens and teens are using AI. Of those, about 25% are using it every day for various different purposes. And we wanted to understand, how are they using it? What kinds of questions they're bringing to AI, and really understand also this piece around any emerging concerns or areas that we should really understand more. So what we saw is the main reasons that kids are turning to AI is actually really for fun and entertainment. 89% of kids said they use it for some type of fun purpose, followed shortly after with homework. But they're also turning to it for questions about personal information that they want to know about. And they're taking their personal questions about their health and their body, questions about their future, and even talking to it about how they feel. So one thing that naturally comes up in this type of scenario of kids turning to AI about personal questions is, are they also going to a trusted adult? To what degree are they talking to adults versus turning to AI first? And so we wanted to understand and unpack that further. The good news is that the majority of kids, or 73%, are going to a trusted adult first to ask and get questions answered around personal issues when it comes to things like their health and their body. Now, a concerning pattern that we're seeing emerge is that of the kids who use AI most frequently or those daily users, the numbers shift. And now 27% say, actually, I would go to an AI first to talk about these questions, making sure that you're part of these important conversations, that you're a reliable, trusted source, and that you know what's going on with your kids' lives, and that you can be there to support that is really important.
And I really like to think about this from a young person's perspective, because I think we're all parents, and we could definitely react to this from a oh my gosh, what are the kids doing? Are they going to be okay? And kids are used to a parental overreaction to tech-based topics. So if we can intentionally think about what are kids searching for? Why are they such eager adopters of these technologies? Well, number one is a design reason. It's that sometimes it's the default option. When AI search is the default option, kids are going to use it because they have
it's just
to,
there.
right?
They can't turn it off.
The second might be is that when you design your AI product with so much anthropomorphism or so much certainty, let me give you this expert piece of advice. I know all this stuff. I'm doing all this affirmation of you. That is really different than what you might get from a parent. If you're in your living room and you're like, hey, mom, I need help with blah, 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 blah. You might get a parent who's looking at their phone and their mind is elsewhere. You might get a parent who's like, what now? Parents have a lot on their shoulders, right? Mm-hmm. And former Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who's also an advisor to this institute, he came out with such a great report about parents are so crunched and burnt out right now. There's so much on our shoulders, right? Yeah. So it is totally understandable that a parent might just be like, what? When their kid asks them for advice on something.
Another question.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. So you're a kid and you're like, okay, I could deal with what? Or I could deal with, hey, what a great question. Let me give you all the answers of the universe, right? And so you could see why some kids are very attracted to, and studies have shown, especially kids who have chronic, challenging interactions with their parents, go more. They like that very warm, supportive voice of an AI chatbot. Okay, so that's one thing that we could do is tone down that warm, supportive, I get you, let me give you the world's answers, right? Because part of being a teen is you feel uncertainty about who am I, what do I care about, who likes me, where do I belong? And all that over certainty from AI, I worry is going to create some of that dependence of ooh, I can get all the answers here. I never need to feel insecure or uncomfortable. So that's also, then there's a lesson for parents, right? So if your kid is asking you for advice, take that deep breath and be like, hey, what's up? Right? All you have to do is say, what's up? And then you're opening a space for kids to come in and be like, well, this happened and that happened. And then you also need to take a beat and do your breaths so you're not just reacting to whatever your kid is saying about well, I used AI for blah, 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 blah. Or I got a low grade on my essay because of blah, blah, blah. Don't jump on that, right? Don't come in hot, because then kids will shut down. And so that's lesson number one.
And when thinking about recommendations for parents and how they can help kind of their kids navigate this space, and also thinking about our research that shows AI use amongst tweens and teens, is there a specific finding that you think really parents can use to help direct some of those conversations? Is there one finding that you would say to parents, hey, this is maybe not alarmist, maybe hopeful, right? Yeah. Either way, parents, this is something you should think about. This is something you should talk to your kids about. And maybe this is a statistic you should share with your children to help spur some of these conversations. Mm-hmm. Is there anything like that from the report?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the pieces about this is we ask kids, have you ever been shown any inappropriate content? And what we heard is about 1 in 6 kids had seen something inappropriate through AI. And so the question is, when you're a teen and you encounter something inappropriate, or a tween, what do you do, right? Do you keep that information to yourself? Is that something uncomfortable? Do you tell someone about it? What do you do? How do you navigate what happens next? If kids are using AI, there's a chance they might see something that's inappropriate for them. And there's a pretty good chance that they're not going to bring that up. So if I know my kid is using AI, I'm going to prompt or just preemptively bring up these conversations. What have you been seeing lately? Was there anything weird that rubbed you the wrong way? This is an important place for parents to really start, if they haven't already been doing it, start these all-important AI safety conversations.
That's great. We've talked in the past with some of our other common sense research about the importance of making it clear to your kids that they're safe, you're a safe space, that they can have these conversations with you, and that sometimes doing that during carpool is a great opportunity. You're not making eye contact, there's a clear end point, right? And just letting them know that it's okay for them to talk to you about the troubling content that they might be seeing in these online spaces.
Yeah,
so that's great.
Another tip, if you have a kid who you're like, so are you using AI, or what's the deal with AI in school? And they're like, I don't know. Like they give you like a non-answer. And then you try to ask more specific questions like, what do your teachers say is the policy? And you get, like some kids, it's too close to home. They don't want to talk about something they're afraid you're going to judge them for, or they might get in trouble for. So one way to do is displace it to someone else in their classroom and say, what do you see your classmates doing around AI? What do you think the rules should be? You're displacing it a little bit and you're not making it about your own kid. And therefore they might be more willing to talk about it. And they might say, oh, I see kids using it to cheat, or I see kids using it to write their essays and I don't think that's fair. Even if they themselves are doing that too, you're at least opening the conversation to think about the ethics here.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that I think kids know about AI that we as adults don't know. You know, they're using it in different ways. And we even asked kids in the survey, what is something that you think adults don't know about AI that kids know? And so they're a great resource for this information too, in terms of both learning how they're doing it and opening up these conversations for sure.
And that actually brings me to another question I had. The American Academy of Pediatrics is now recommending that pediatricians ask families and kids about their tech use and tech habits. Jenny, as a social media researcher and pediatrician, how do you think this questioning will help parents and their kids navigate their tech habits and their screen use? And what are the kind of barriers to pediatricians asking this in practice?
I always tell pediatricians, all right, you're already talking about sleep, you're already talking about school, you're already talking about like mental health or emotions or behavior. Just insert tech into each of those, because it intersects with all of those, and parenting and everything. So, and the other thing that we're recommending that pediatricians role model this curious, non-judgmental, no guilt or shame or blame sort of approach to the topic. Come in with some more guidance that's really informed of the real ways parents live their lives and how that increases their agency to set the rules and boundaries that they want to set, and to remove the shame and blame and guilt from it, because that just freezes up conversations. And I credit some of the behavioral psychologists I've worked with who gave me this question of like, if there's one thing you could change about your family's tech use, what would it be? So you're both giving them change talk, which is this motivational interviewing type of approach of, you decide. Yeah. I'm not telling you. You're the expert on your kids. I don't blame or criticize the humans. I blame and criticize the tech. And I'm like, how could tech be designed better?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like what tech designs are just making your life impossible as a parent right now?
One thing that we've talked about sort of throughout a lot of our common sense reports, and also in this most recent report, is that there is sometimes a disconnect between kids and adults' knowledge of AI. What was some of the feedback, Laura, that you heard from kids that they think is really important for parents to hear?
Yeah, so we asked them, what is one thing that you think kids know about AI that adults don't know? And we heard some really interesting pieces of information. So I'm going to read you a few quotes from what we heard from these kids. So one kid said, they don't know that I use it in school often. It's really interesting to think about. Now we're in this era where we have AI summaries embedded in Google search. And so they think we as adults don't really know how often they're accessing these AI touch points. Another kid told us, adults seem to have a hard time knowing which videos or reels are real or AI. And I have to tell my mom it's fake a lot. And when you don't have those tags of this was generated, or those captions, this was generated by an AI tool, it can be hard for humans to detect these things. And kids are picking up on the fact that sometimes they know this, but their own parents are finding it hard to decipher, and they have to say, hey mom, hey dad, that's actually not real. It looks real.
This
but
is a total example of the system is not supporting parents' ability to do this job of supporting their kids' AI literacy. If you yourself can't figure out what is AI generated and what is not, because we don't have consistent watermarks.
Absolutely.
We should. This should just be a rule.
That's an easy design update to make.
We should have that little symbol easily recognizable so we can all know what is AI generated and what's not.
Yeah.
It can just start displacing all of the human created stuff in your feed. Yeah. And that's where it would be awesome if we had the agency, to click it off on platforms. But I think this is also an example of the fact that AI is all around us already, really fast. Families are not all that eager to be swimming in it. And so it presents itself as an easy conversational topic if you frame it the right way. If you frame it as curiosity, hey kid, how are you doing with this? Rather than, I'm nervous about this as a parent, so I just need to shut this all down, which will then shut down the conversations about it too.
Yeah. And one of the things we found in our most recent census report was that a lot of these AI safety conversations are not happening. Mm-hmm. So 4 in 10 kids told us that they're not having these AI safety conversations with a parent or a teacher at school. What's happening more often is these conversations are around the rules, what you can and can't use AI for when it comes to schoolwork or homework. But I would argue almost even more important than just knowing the basic rules about when you can and can't use it is, what does safe AI use look like? And what do we want to encourage kids to do when they encounter a problem or they come across something that doesn't sit right? And we've been talking about this too, in terms of you are the best expert on your own child, right? And so if you start noticing something's a little bit different, right? I used to see them playing their instrument more. They used to be hanging out more as a family. And now I'm not really seeing them quite as much. What might have changed? And this might be a great opportunity, noticing those patterns shifting, to start some of those AI safety conversations.
Yeah. And this is key. See their AI use as a signal of what they need, not something they're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. So what is it signaling? I am socially anxious and it's hard for me to connect with people. So I might need a little extra help connecting with that kid down the block, or, going out a little bit more. I'm struggling with my schoolwork, and this is an easy way to just get better grades and get my homeworks turned in. Yeah. So that there are things you can do as a parent to get your kid more school help.
Yeah, that's great. Common Sense Media just launched our new Youth AI Safety Institute to test and rate a variety of AI products and really set an industry standard for developing products that kids will use. Laura is a lead researcher, and Jenny, you're of course one of our advisors. So I want to ask each of you, how do you see the Common Sense Media Youth AI Safety Institute impacting the future of kids in this digital world we live in? Laura, I'll start with you.
Yeah. One thing that I really hope is that we can be a trusted source of information for helping to provide guidance to parents around what is AI safety? What are the risks? What are the opportunities? And how can you get ahead of the conversation when it comes to noticing these changes in your kids and having the conversations early, and really working through any sort of challenges that might come up. Understanding, what are kids doing today?
Yeah, and my hopes are, I've worked everywhere from with patients in their everyday lives to policy. And I see how the design of the systems that families live in really shape that everyday usage, how much kids and parents are arguing about technology, how much overuse there is, how much benefits kids are getting. So My real hope is that by working faster to talk about what the unsafe designs are, imagine what the more child-centered designs could be, and maybe where developmentally where those should belong. Like, I think a lot of us have concerns about early childhood AI use, but are there very purpose-driven, human-centered, not engagement-based designs that have a place later on in childhood? Because my standpoint on this is that this is not inevitable. We're not sitting here being like, oh, AI is here to stay and we're just going to have to deal with it. We're saying, all right, all these products have been introduced. They better have the safety and privacy by design that our kids deserve.
Great. Well, thank you both so very much. This has been such a fun and informative conversation. I feel like I've learned a lot about what the research says, things that we can move forward practically as parents and as pediatricians, and things that we can just try to implement to be better, more informed, and be able to help guide today's children in what is a very overwhelming digital era. So thank you both so much. And we will link to the reports that we talked about in the comments, as well as our new Common Sense Media Youth AI Safety Institute. And if you're interested in this, we encourage you to sign up for our newsletters to stay informed about our research, parenting resources, and advocacy opportunities to help protect kids in our always-on world. Thanks.